From a spoiled brat who tries to punch the school cop to a spoiled brat who gets $1,000 per week as allowance and demands that he gets more because it's too little, these are the most spoiled kids of all time. Let's go. So we're going to call a subscriber submitted the first story Avery. So anyways, there's a kid in Avery's class who we're going to call the spoiled kid. And the spoiled kid had been getting cockier and cockier. And he was your kind of standard, typical spoiled kid who, believed that he deserved everything and that everyone should just bow down to him. And this all started one day in class when Avery was kind of like sitting in the middle of the class. He wasn't like totally paying attention, but he was, he was doing his work. He was doing his time. You already know how it is, right? And the spoiled kid was kind of just sitting there. And the spoiled kid started, like, throwing, like, little bits of paper at Avery. Like, kind of, like, crumpled up balls of paper. So not, like, so small you wouldn't notice it, but big enough that it's, like, annoying. So Avery turns around. He's like, what's good? And the spoiled kid's like, wasn't me, dude. And obviously just trying to be annoying. And a little bit of context, Avery and the spoiled kid were not friends. They, like, had major beef a long time ago, and just, it's not like they still have beef. That was, like, third grade beef or something. But they just never, like, reconciled, so they weren't enemies, but they definitely weren't friends by any means, right? So at this point, the spoiled kid is just, like, he's just messing with Avery, and he knows that Avery doesn't like him. So after class, Avery's walking to the front of the class with a backpack. He just wants to get to his next class, right? And the spoiled kid comes up to him, is like, hey, man, like, sorry about that random guy throwing spit wads at you. Like, it wasn't me, but I'll let you know if I see who it was. And said it in a tone where it's, like, very obvious. They both knew who was throwing it, right? So the spoiled kid was just trying to be more and more of a jerk. Avery's like, all right, dude, like, whatever. And the spoiled kid's like, you don't say whatever to me, and, like, literally pushes his hand onto the wall in front of where Avery was walking to stop him. Unfortunately, right, the spoiled kid who got everything he ever wanted was also a pretty big kid. Like, he just was physically large. I'm not saying he grinded in the gym. He got everything he ever wanted, so why would he try for something? But he was a physically bigger kid, right? So it was a little difficult for Avery to just be like, no, I'm going to do what I want, because, this kid would just kind of block him or whatever. So Avery looks up at him, doesn't look up to him, right? Looks up at him. The spoiled kid looks at him and kind of just gives him this smile. And Avery's just like, this kid is the absolute worst. So this is just an example of what the spoiled kid is like. So the spoiled kid started to get a little bit more and more cocky, right? He started to just believe that he could get away with this running the school. And the spoiled kid definitely had a bit of an inflated ego. Definitely all the ability, because it kind of like snowballed in a sense, because like the ability to kind of get away with whatever has kind of like led him to believe that he could get away with more. And so we went from like throwing spitballs at Avery to one day, Avery's walking out of class and he just literally gets pushed onto the frickin' ground. Like he just gets pushed onto the ground. And he looks up and it's the spoiled kid being like, oh, you should watch where you're going, dude. Like you might hurt yourself. Like, obviously, the biggest, like, jerk answer possible. Like, yeah, it was this kid who pushed him onto the ground. Like, it was obviously this kid. And, yeah. So, this kid was starting to do it, and not only to Avery, by the way. So, these were just examples specifically given to me by the subscriber. But the subscriber tells me that this was starting to happen to other people, too. Like, this kid started to become a bully a while ago, but he really became a bully now. Like, he was just picking on kids, basically just being a massive jerk for the sake of being a massive jerk. But it went from being a massive jerk to, like, physically assaulting people. Like, there's definitely a line. I really, like, if you're, like, a jerk to someone, look, it's not good, and you will get, like, life has a way to push back at you, and that will probably happen in some form or another. But I do very solidly draw the line at, like, physically assaulting people. And I think we can all agree with that, right? And the thing is, right, karma was about to come for the spoiled kid. Because the spoiled kid, I don't even know how he got to this point. Like, it's really hard to figure out how one comes to this point. But I think the spoiled kid was just so high on, believing in himself, just so high and mighty, and just believing that he was above everyone. That he was this truly, like, sent from the gods. I genuinely don't even know where this kid was coming from with this. Because it was so ridiculous, right? But he basically, at one point, this all happened one day, and it was like the craziest time ever for Avery. It was like unbelievable. This was legitimately unbelievable. So the spoiled kid must have gotten away with punching and like doing all this stuff to all the other kids that he thought that, he was above the school cop. So anyways, there was a cop at Avery's school who was kind of like, he never really had to do anything except like 2 years ago. There's a one time where he had to like break up a fight between these kids, but that was the last time this cop ever got action. So, I mean, since the school cop really didn't do that much, he would sometimes, I don't know, be like, watch where you're going, guys, like he would like enforce really stupid rules or whatever because the dude was bored. But this is a time where, the school cop actually got some action. So yeah, this all happened one day when Avery was walking down. This didn't happen to Avery, which it was just like, he was there though, so he was able to see the whole thing go down. So Avery was walking to class when he sees the spoiled kid is like pushes this other kid up against a locker. And Avery kind of just saw this as a normal everyday occurrence because honestly, up to this point, Avery really didn't know how the spoiled kid didn't get reprimanded. Avery really just genuinely believes that the teachers somehow, by some stroke of luck on the spoiled kid's side, just never caught him doing this stuff. And I guess no one really reported it because they just assumed, since the spoiled kid kept getting away with it, that, I don't know, his parents like paid off the teachers. But in reality, it was probably just because no one reported it because they just didn't think it was going to work and just teachers didn't happen to see it. Well, this time, someone was able to see it. The school cop saw it. In previous times, the spoiled kid would specifically avoid doing it around the school cop because he believed like, oh, well, I don't know. I guess he was still kind of scared of the school cop. But that was until now. Because now, the spoiled kid was just so high and mighty and full of himself that he believed that he was above the school cop. He believed that he was like, I don't know, the school cop had nothing on him. So he blatantly pushed some kid up against a locker in front of the school cop. And I think the school cop, still kind of is a little high and mighty himself. So he was so taken aback by the fact that some kid would just blatantly do it. He almost found like a form of disrespect that the kid would just do it in front of him, expecting nothing to happen. So the school cop quickly walks up to the spoiled kid and says, hey, no fight in the halls. And the spoiled kid turns to the school cop and says, you can't tell me what to do. And the school cop legitimately just stood there for a good couple seconds, completely stunned. The man was stunned, unable to speak. Because imagine, you're a school cop, right? You see some kid fighting some other kid, you go up and you say, you can't be doing that. And he says, you can't tell me what to do. Bro, the school's cop, literally their job is to tell you what to do, is to enforce the rules of the school. What do you mean you're not allowed to tell him what to do? And the spoiled kid gave him a smirk. And honestly, I think the reason why the spoiled kid just got owned so bad was because he was so arrogant that he legitimately gave the cop a smirk after saying, you can't tell me what to do. He smirked afterwards, almost to rub it more in the school cop's face. And the spoiled kid just went back to going, pushing this kid up against a wall. And that's when the school cop moved in and said, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to take you to the front office. And the spoiled kid turns and says, you're not doing anything to me. I don't know who told you that you had the authority to do anything to me, but I'm standing right here, man, and nothing's going to change that. And the school cop moves in to, grab him by the arm, and the spoiled kid sees this, and this is where the spoiled kid messed up. He legitimately swings on the cop, full force, and hits him in the face. And boom, you just hear the smack, right? And the whole, everyone who's walking by, there's a lot of rubbernecking going on anyways. People were slowing down. Some people stopped entirely to listen. But after the spoiled kid hit the school cop across the face, everybody was listening in, dude. Every single person was like, oh my God. This kid actually just went all the way out and did this. So yeah, almost immediately, not immediately, because there was a brief period that the school cop was just in complete disbelief of what just happened. He thought he had a mini, epileptic seizure or something, and he just imagined, or just, his brain produced the fact that he got hit in the face out of nowhere, when the truth was, he just got hit in the face by the spoiled kid. So almost immediately after, right, he just looks up at the spoiled kid, and the spoiled kid is looking at the school cop, looking at him like he's not going to do anything. And it's so puzzling and so confusing because the school cop immediately grabs the spoiled kid and pushes him onto the ground, basically tackles this kid onto the ground. And I think the spoiled kid was so thrown off guard by this because the spoiled kid up to this point had been completely untouched by everybody else, or every other teacher just hadn't done anything. But the truth is, it's just because I guess the teachers didn't see any of this going down. And yeah, that's what happens when you punch the school cop. Sure enough, the spoiled kid got suspended for like a week or something. Had to write an apology to the kid he pushed up against the locker. Had to write an apology to the school cop or whatever. And also, apparently, reports came out that this behavior was a lot more systemic than just the one issue. I don't think Avery said anything about if he personally submitted something, but he did say people in general, so he may have. But anyways, there was kind of an additional part to the spoiled kid's punishment where if there was any reports at all that he does anything like this again, he would just be immediately expelled. Immediately expelled. Even if it was just tripping a kid or something, which isn't good, but a much more minor offense than attacking someone, right? He would just be immediately expelled. And if you thought that spoiled kid was bad, this might be the most spoiled kid ever. And we're going to call the subscriber who submitted this story, Calvin. So anyways, Calvin was in class one day, and there was a kid in his class who we're going to call the spoiled kid. And while the last spoiled kid in the other story was definitely more of a spoiled kid in the sense that he was able to get away with anything and he was just never told no, this kid was more of a spoiled kid because his parents were super loaded and they basically gave him literally anything he wanted. Look, if let's say one of you guys, or maybe all of you guys, because you watch Connor Pugs, you'll grow up to be very rich one day, direct correlation. But let's say maybe you I don't know, work a job, make a business or something like that, win the lottery, who knows, pick the next, I don't know, Dogecoin. You make a lot of money. My suggestion is just if you have kids, make sure that they basically grow up the same way that almost every other kid grows up, with the same perception of value, the same perception of money, the same kind of the most valuable thing you can give a child is perspective. And then eventually, look, obviously, use the perks of money, give them the food that's going to be quality and healthy, give them good health care, make sure that, I do what you need to do, but don't do what, the parents of this spoiled kid did, where they gave him practically unlimited money and they thought that would solve all the issues of them not being there, of them not being good parents, etc. Nothing will ever solve that issue, and just giving your kid way too much money before they've actually formed a perception of what money really is and the value of a dollar or whatever, right? Then it will be poison to them. And it was poison to the spoiled kid because one day Calvin was in class. The spoiled kid literally starts speaking out of nowhere, just starts talking, right? It's guys, I'm in such a predicament right now. And I don't know, when someone says, guys, I'm in a predicament, I don't know, I'm going to listen to them. I'm going to hear them out because maybe I can give some advice. Maybe I can lend a bit of wisdom. So Calvin felt the same way, but he was not expecting what the spoiled kid was about to say. So the spoiled kid goes on to say, guys, I'm in such a predicament right now. I want to buy these 2 Supreme box logo hoodies, but buying both of them would be $1,400. And I only get $1,000 a week. So I would have to wait 2 weeks allowance to buy both of these hoodies. Guys, I don't know what to do. So first of all, this spoiled kid was either saying this because he was delusional, or this spoiled kid literally just wanted to flex the fact that he got $1,000 a week and wanted to come up with a quote-unquote creative way to accidentally, quote-unquote accidentally tell everyone that he gets $1,000 per week. And he'd do that by saying, oh no, I can't buy X item that costs more than my weekly allowance, which happens to be $1,000 a week, guys. Guys, did you hear that? $1,000 a week. I'm rich. He. Something I don't know. So either way, it's ridiculous. And Calvin looks at the spoiled kid, and everyone else looks at the spoiled kid, or everyone who's listening to him, and kind of says, I don't know, just don't buy the hoodie. Guys, look, I got a solution to your problem. Don't buy the Supreme Box logo hoodie. Wow, problem solved. And basically no one really had a lot of sympathy for him, which, I don't know. I feel like I don't really blame them for not having a lot of sympathy for the kid who's complaining about only This poor kid is only receiving $1,000 a week. He must be starving. He can only afford one Supreme Box logo hoodie a week, not two. This kid is impoverished beyond any comprehension of the word impoverished, right? So sad. So yeah, the kids in the class were kind of talking to each other after the class, right? They're all like this kid actually gets $1,000 a week. Like, are you serious right now? And I think the spoiled kid thought that would, like, I don't know, give him a good rep or something like that. But really, it kind of just made kids be like, bro, like, this kid really gets $1,000 a week to do, like, that's ridiculous. It was mostly, all it really did was kind of just stir envy and jealousy, which the thing is, right, I've never really, I've only understood flexing to an extent, but the thing is, right, if you're going to be flexing something, first of all, I suggest just kind of keeping it kind of minimum in most situations. But you also got to understand, if you do choose to flex X or Y or whatever, maybe you got the new whatever shoes, right? Just realize that there will be jealousy. Like I said, the whole point of it is saying that I have it and you don't at the end of the day. Like, if we're really breaking down the root of it, it's because you want people to know that you have something that perhaps they do not, right? So just be aware of that and be aware of the consequences, that people will be jealous and that behind your back they might not speak as nicely about you. That's just the truth. That's just reality, right? But this flexing blew up in the spoiled kid's face so bad that not even the subscriber Calvin saw this coming. So basically what ended up happening was that all the kids in the class, on the rides home, on the car rides home, the moms were like, oh, how was school today? And they were like, it was good, I guess. But you know what I heard? Spoiled kid gets $1,000 a week. And I only get $10 a week. I only get $1. I only get $5, right? I don't get anything a week, like a bunch of varied responses. There was a lot of variety in the responses, but one thing was true. None of them got $1,000 a week or anything close to it. So all of a sudden, basically every single mom in the school knows that the spoiled kid gets $1,000 per week. Just for being a spoiled kid, right? Just for existing. It's ridiculous. And word started to spread. And by the end of the night, there was mom group chats or whatever, and they were all talking about it. However, I think they forgot that in one of these various Facebook group chats, that the spoiled kid's mom was actually a part of it. And apparently the spoiled kid's mom literally lurked the entire time and didn't say anything. But she soon figured out that her son had been bragging about the fact that he got over $1,000 per week or whatever. And I guess look, the spoiled kid's mom obviously was not the greatest at parenting, because she gave her very young, impressionable son over $1,000 per week to do whatever he wanted with it, instead of instilling good values into him and kind of making sure that he has the perspective of money first. Kind of just gave him flush with cash for no good reason. So it's kind of on her. But at this point, she actually kind of steps up a little bit, because the next day in class, the spoiled kid comes in and he looks furious. And he turns to all the kids, including Calvin. He's like, you guys did this to me. You guys screwed me over. And they're all like, dude, literally, what are you saying right now? He's like, my mom took away my $1,000 per week not tuition, what's it called? Allowance. I don't get anything anymore. It's because you guys were talking all about it, and she felt embarrassed, and she realized it wasn't good for me, and now I get $0 per week. And all the kids are like, dang, bro, that's tough. I mean, I don't know what to say. They didn't feel that bad. Because now it's like, oh, well, first of all, I'm sure if he asked for money, the mom is still going to be like, sure, you can buy this, right? It just doesn't mean that he's getting $1,000 per week just for doing nothing. But now, oh no, boo-hoo, the kid gets as much as most of the kids get there per week, aka $0, aka $5, right? Oh no, he doesn't get $1,000 per week to waste on stupid stuff. So obviously the kids in the class and Calvin were kind of like, okay. They weren't gloating or anything, but they also didn't feel incredibly bad. Because at the end of the day, it's like, okay, man, now you're just living like all of us. That's tough. I don't know what else to say. That's just tough. Click on the video on screen right now. I know you'll enjoy it. Just